Greetings, everyone. It's very good to be with you today, and we're here today to talk about something that I was very excited about. Often when I make visitations, I see and hear about things that are happening in congregations that just really are exciting. And this one comes from Epiphany Church in Seattle, and their small group ministry. And I'm delighted today to have with us the Reverend Kate Wesch, who's the associate there, and who has really been the guiding leadership behind this movement at Epiphany. And so, Kate, thanks for being here today and to talk to us. First, what's the definition of small group ministry at Epiphany?
A small group at Epiphany is about 6 to 10 people. For us, it's a men's group or a women's group, and they don't particularly have an agenda. They begin by each individual person shares their story, and that's what kind of guides them for the beginning 8 weeks or so is telling who they are, and that bonds the group. They pray together. At the end of that initial phase of 8 weeks, I go into the group and help them discern and figure out if they want to continue.
Do you or someone from the staff go and help initiate?
I kind of get the ball rolling, and then I step out. We encourage groups to meet weekly, at least until they really get going. I think that's really important for bonding and really developing tight relationships, particularly if people don't know one another in the beginning. We have groups that met weekly for 5-6 years at this point.
Yeah, I was going to ask. What's the longest group?
5 or 6 years, I think, at this point. We've been doing this for about 6 years.
Yeah. How do they get put into these groups?
As people let me know that they're interested, I keep running a list. And we do kind of a matchmaking. We talk about the people, and we look at the list of names, and we really prayerfully consider who would go well. One thing I found is really a key ingredient to the success of a small group is that people are in a similar stage of their spiritual journey. So we try to, with the best of our ability, think about what we know of people and match people so that we hope it'll be a successful match.
She put all of us together and we have gelled. We have a wonderful small group. There are 6 of us and we meet every other week. These are women who are my dearest friends now.
I got to know Kate, and she mentioned that there are small groups, and it just really struck a chord for me. The first time I met the ladies, I knew it was the right group for me. Finding women who have similar values, a number of them are moms like I am, and just really talking through making sure our faith and study continues beyond Sunday is really important to me.
6 of us showed up, and we've been together since. Pretty much every one of those guys has become one of my best friends. It feels good to just be every 8 o'clock on Tuesday I'm going to be up here. It's interesting that you have an hour long and you've been checking in for a year, but you still have more to say.
Had heard just wonderful things about small groups here at Epiphany. Got a kick in the pants from Kate and from Dwight and saying, hey, how about helping form a small group? And so I said, well, why not?
I had an opportunity. I was asked to join a small group, and so I did. And there are 6 of us now. The ladies and I have a nice camaraderie. We had to build that up.
We formed our small group here in 2014. The first 3 or 4 were all sort of awkward. It's like a couple of first dates, right? You know, when are you supposed to talk, and what's the agenda, and who should do what? And then as we get to know people, that's the most important thing, is you get to know people, you just get more natural. In our group, there are about 10 men in the group. We're a very diverse group, people of different ages. We have a number of us who are sort of in the midpoints of our careers. We have a member of the group who just retired. We have a member of the group who just had his first child.
My experience here, it's so much richer because of the small group.
It's a camaraderie as with using faith as a vehicle.
So, can you talk about a little bit about what did you do to make it Episcopalian?
Sure. It's a good question. I think we just have to be authentic to who we are as Episcopalians. For us, liturgy and the Holy Eucharist and our Sunday morning worship is primary, and that will never change. And that's the most important thing we do.
So we meet every other week for 2 hours. We start by lighting a candle to try to gather ourselves, and then we do a meditation. And then we do a thing where we check in with each other about our families and our health. And then we pray. It's just a wonderful experience.
Once everyone arrives, we'll open with a prayer. We've started discussing the sermon, so we'll ask some questions, and that usually takes us through a pretty rich discussion. And then we usually go around before we close and talk about our prayer requests. That, to me, is one of the richest parts it's been really interesting, just one, the mix of prayers, but just the amazing way that God puts on our hearts what we need to hear.
Once everyone arrives, open with hour by hour evening prayer. First year or so, we try to do books and stuff like that, and now it's more rolled into, we just do a check-in, each of us, and then once a year we'll go out to St. Andrew's house and hang out for a whole weekend. It's a good time, just really share.
We first come in and we always have food. We do check in before we do our meditation so that we kind of know what's been going on in each other's lives. And we do 10 minutes of meditation as the opening. And then we go into discussion about whatever it is we want to talk about. If we're having any problems with spirituality or with our faith or with our home life or anything. And then we close with prayer usually.
Sometimes there are a couple of us, sometimes 8 or 9 or 10 of us show up, but it's that rhythm that is what really works for us. We meet twice a month. We've decided that meeting regularly is what works for us. So it's the first and third Tuesdays at 6 p.m. here at Epiphany. Typical meeting is about an hour to an hour and a half. It varies every time. We always read from hour by hour. We start and we end the meeting with a prayer, but then we talk about lots of different things, what's on our mind. So we have a pretty flexible flow. We've tried agendas and that works sometimes, and then sometimes we just show up and let it flow.
I'm going to ask you, what's the point of them?
Yes.
For you at Epiphany, what's the point of small groups?
It's a deep way to connect with people. So they come together over time. We like to say it's meeting regularly, praying together, and if you meet long enough and you share your lives, God shows up. It's organic, it's simple, but it just allows people to be on their own unique spiritual journey, connected through a church experience, and just in regular, deeper conversation.
You get to share your faith in a deep way. We talk about the sermons. It's nice. Everybody has a different point of view, and your point of view is supported. Everybody listens.
Not only have I made great friends, but we're just completely honest and truthful with each other.
Coming together, praying together, and also hearing everyone's journey, everyone's story, and knowing that if I've got a big week in front of me or something is going on, that there's a group who are praying for me and with me. You know, it gives you a chance to really build a connection, just how caring and vulnerable we can all be when we're together in that setting.
It's pretty intimate, and it's a great chance to be vulnerable, with people that you totally trust.
Community, whether it's only your church or whether it's extended to a small group as part of that church experience, I think is an important thing.
So I'm sure there are lots of stories.
I was with a group, their first session, and we were briefly going around saying how long you've been at Epiphany and your name, those sorts of things. One woman stood up in the middle and she said, "I don't think you recognize me." Introduced herself to a woman across the room, and she used her maiden name, and she stood up and she said, "We went to Sunday school here 50 years ago when Elmer Christie was rector." And the tears started coming. 4 women out of the 10 seated around that room went to Sunday school together there in the World War II days.
My best friend was recently diagnosed with cancer. And when we started the prayer circle, going around and asking, my first thought was to give kind of a surface request. One of the other women mentioned that a loved one is also going through chemotherapy. To open my heart in that way and to share my friend's journey, and to week over week, have people say, how'd it go this week? And we've been praying for you. But knowing that there are others here on the journey with me, just made it a little easier.
There was a guy who, this is another long-standing small group, his brother was dying of cancer some years ago, and he just was very much in the grief process as his brother was dying and couldn't make it to his group. They meet every single week and have for years. So he was at home with his wife that night, and there was a knock on the door. His wife answered the door, and there was his entire small group standing on the front porch, and they said, "We understand that you can't come to group. That's fine. You don't need to come to group. You don't need to come until you're ready, but until you can come, we're coming to you."
My wife's father passed away about 2 months or so ago. The outreach from the small group to me, offering to help me and my wife, the men were there and I knew that they were there. It extended into our small groups where for several sessions people asked me how I was doing and they asked how my wife was doing. That was really nice to have that. It was definitely very meaningful for us.
When newcomers come into the church, how quickly do you try to get them into these groups?
Yeah, what I've found is that newcomers are the most eager to join a small group because they're looking for a way to integrate into the congregation, and that's when people are most interested.
What's been your experience if a group kind of runs the life cycle and they end? Do those people go into other groups, or do they just kind of fade away, or what's been your experience with that?
We haven't really experienced that. We have groups that have met for a brief time and split up. They were a bad match. And some of those people are now in other groups that are going better. I think we've gotten better at
matchmaking.
Matchmaking.
What would you say is the biggest mistake people might make in trying to form small groups?
I think you just have to be willing to make mistakes. Carol Anderson, who used to be rector of All Saints Beverly Hills, she said, if 1 in 4 of your groups succeed and 3 out of 4 fail, you're doing this right. Logistically, it can be really difficult. People's time is precious, and it's hard. And it's hard to convince people to give it a try, and it takes a while to get it going. But it really is worth it to transform lives.
We have this opportunity to stay together for a long time, and so that's my hope.
The women in our group are all very amazing women. For people who are thinking about it, I would definitely say try it, but don't feel wedded to the first group you try.
The whole thing is to step in, to get past that fear and just allow yourself to be a little bit vulnerable. Put it in God's hands and walk forward and see what happens.
I would encourage them.
Oh, just go for it. What's to lose? At the end of the day, you might meet some people that you really, really click with. What a home run that is, right?
I think some people might be asking now, would you be willing to help others? Like if they called you or Epiphany, would you be willing to help them get started?
I would love to help people do this. I know there's one other priest colleague in the diocese who's starting 2 new groups this January. There are times of year that are better to start groups that we've learned. September is a great time. Right after the New Year's a great time. And then you have a window right around Easter.
Kate, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this ministry. And I want to remind everybody that you've offered to come help them, or to at least talk to them on the phone about this if they want to start it. So thank you very much.
You can't practice God's love alone.
A small group makes it complete.
Life has its ups and downs and challenges, and to have a group of friends and a support group who's there to help you and to advise you and follow a faith journey together is a pretty special thing.